Hey, here we go. Hey guys, how's everybody doing? We got a full house today. It's Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. We've got a lot of stuff, kind of cool stuff to talk about today. One thing, the market is moving and screaming up and down, which for traders like me, I enjoy that because it's moving. We also got some really interesting things and news to talk about, and we've got pretty much the whole entire crew from the mid show. Why midnight show here. All the OGs in there coming in and representing. So that's actually gonna be real fun. They're a cool lounge that I'm introduced to probably about a week or two ago, and we've just been having a good time. So say what's up, guys. How you guys doing?
Well, doing pretty great at the moment. I'm Toby from Germany.
Yep.
Also from the Midnight Show.
Yeah.
How about the others?
And yeah, Kingston. He's the
the crazy Swedish guy who is also known as the Black Powerpuff.
Yes. And then we got Mary, who's sweet Mary.
Yeah, me too.
No, Mary, you are not the Black Powerpuff. I am.
I was promised money to come here, so. This is a fine.
Wait, you guys get money?
Only the females get money.
It's funny.
No,
I tell
happy to see
everybody, like, I literally give you money on the show. I literally tell you what to do in the markets, and the markets do it, and then you make money. I literally have a guy who's literally made about like $80,000-$90,000 in regards.
And if I don't, I can sue you, right?
No, that's why I have this right here. No investment advice. This is all for entertainment, educational purposes only. Now, if you decide
I'm telling you what to do to make money, but this is no financial advice.
That's exactly.
All right.
If you decide you want to do it, well, you can do it. I just simply say this is where I'm going to get in and get out. That's how it is. So, I mean, everybody can decide what they want to do ultimately, right?
Yeah, let's shill some shit coins then.
Oh, it is family friendly. Remember that. So that means that we got to make sure that we keep things. And also, do not use the Yep. So
Can we talk about Mexicans? No.
Talk about whatever we want. The biggest thing though is do not use the word COVID-19 because that is a trigger word that will cause them to come in and shut this thing down. So I always let everybody know, don't say that. But what you can say is cerveza. So if you use the word as cerveza sickness or just cerveza, because in Spanish, I can come later if you still are on.
My Spanish vocabulary, like there's no risk that I will get those banned because I'm not familiar with this at all.
Good. Well, you're pretty familiar with the 2-year situation that kind of told everybody that they couldn't work anymore, right? So that whatever that is called, do not say that word. So I would say
I don't get it. Can you send the word in a DM to me so I know what not to say? I hope I didn't say it yet.
That's funny. That just say it starts with a C and ends with a D, or ends with 19. So,
oh my god! If you don't know it, you're not very likely to say it.
I'm a little bit unsure if I heard that correctly. Did you say it started with a D and the D ended where exactly? What is this show now again?
The D ended with 19, I guess.
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is getting suspicious.
Yes, in a good way. So real quick. So I don't know if you guys caught up, and I just want to hear your guys' views on this. So the CFTC, which is basically the commissions or the Commodities Commission organization, they're actually wanting. They've made some big announcements saying that they will, here in the States, want to govern and have more authority over crypto because they feel like it is being set up and we're ready for a crash, like the 2008 crash. What are your guys' thoughts on that regulatory organization wanting full autonomy over crypto in the States?
I'm really against crashes, to be honest.
So here's the
To
thing,
be
though.
honest, to be honest, and I'm against rules. I'm an anarchist.
So that's
Can
interesting,
you
right?
guys see
Because
my mushroom?
well, I always place this up like this, which is pretty awesome. We've had crashes so much in crypto, it's ridiculous, right? I mean, literally over the past 12 years, we've had 3 crashes within crypto, right? Where literally it goes 95% down. I mean, from its peak to the low, it goes almost as 95% to 80% down, right? And that's what we've seen. So it's interesting that they are now wanting to step in. And their biggest thing is this, because that a lot of the institutional money wants to get involved, and they're now investing a lot of money into the markets, right? That they're afraid that this is going to start affecting people's pension plans and issues. But institutions want exposure of crypto into their pensions or into their portfolios so that they can bring a better gain for their people, which I think is perfectly fine. But I don't like the fact that the CFTC wants to step in and really trying to start to regulate, and almost like, I don't know, I feel like they'll try to strangle crypto. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, if they try to limit the volatility on the downside, they will also limit it on the upside. Obviously, this is how it works. It does not come one-sided, and in the end, they want to make crypto to what the stock market has become over the years, a highly regulated, marketplace with high, high boundaries or high frictions to get into it, and it takes away the easy access of the normal people. So they want to centralize it and make it hard for everyone to make gains. And I think that they can try, but in the end, crypto is not as easily to centralize or as easily to regulate as the stock market is. We will see some regulations over the next years, that's for sure. And we will also see lower volatility. We already do. But I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest, because I think that everyone still should have the right to just trade as he wants to, and not, being forced to use a broker, for example. And these kinds of regulations are about to come, I know. So we have to enjoy the current market situation as long as it's there.
You know, you bring up a good aspect. Is like they're definitely trying to. They're almost like they have a domesticated cat. Cats can scratch you and hurt you, right? Like they're domesticated, but they can also hurt you. But it's almost like DeFi is a feral animal. It's like you have the traditional markets, which is like a cat, and then you go out and you're trying to tame or domesticate a lion or a leopard. It's like, and then you bring it in your house while it's a kitty, and it grows into a grown, like, wild animal, like, and it's tough, but it's domesticated, but ultimately it's still feral. In its nature, it is still feral, and it will attack you, and it will kill you. Even domesticated. So I almost feel like they're trying to domesticate a wild animal called
they
crypto.
They can domesticate the sexes and all the projects. Like if you want to get your project registered and you want to have a legal company of that project, obviously they can regulate you. There is no doubt about that. The big difference I see and why I think it's not needed is that the stock market also had this high volatility back in 1800 something. So if you look at the stock markets back then, we also had this high volatility, and the whole economy crashed. It killed lots of businesses, and whole countries suffered from that. The crypto space itself is not that big. Yeah, it also has an effect on the people. It also has an effect on the companies involved there, but it does not kill whole countries, and it does not kill or financially kill um, the whole population of a country, or yeah, let's say 50%, because um, it's the way it is a parallel market next to the traditional markets, which are regulated as well. So, or already. So, what we see is that there is this market which is highly volatile and unregulated, and which does not affect the people as much as the stock market would do. If the stock market crashed by 90%, the economy would be dead. Yeah, that's true. If the crypto market drops by 90%, the economy is not that. It does not affect us as much. If we now bring in crypto into the traditional finances, like pensions and insurances, then obviously a crash of 90% would harm way more people. And this is why it is needed for these other people to be able to invest, to regulate this first. So, on one hand, this is a big chance because all these bystanders have lots of money they want to invest, but they can't because it's too risky at the moment. So, this is a potential for an uprising after the regulations. But if the regulations are done wrong, this will limit the market access for the normal people, and then there is a risk, and I hope that they don't overregulate it, but there's not much more we can do than hope.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Hingston and Mary? Tell me what you're thinking.
I think that the national banks, they cannot be underestimated. They sit on trillions and trillions. Like they just sit on so much money. And when you if they just throw 1% of what they have at, just making it difficult for blockchain, it will be difficult for blockchain to, develop. There needs to be, like in politics, we need representatives that are crypto friendly. We see some movements, we see some of this in Canada. We see some of this like in some places in the world, right?
Even in the States, you have senators, you have representatives in the House that are pro crypto.
Yeah, and right, they are very much needed. Yeah. And I think that this is where the good fight will be fought for a long time. I don't think that it's going to be up to the average Joe, so to say. I think that is going to be like they already know that the people want this, right? Yeah, and they will find a way to get this somehow. But it will be very limited in what we can actually do with it, or how it will, provide better quality of life for everyone, or if it's just going to be, like a gimmick that was strangled or snuffed out.
So here's my question, right? Let's say, because like we've seen countries around the world who were being strangled by the US dollar, right? And their currency is just being demolished. They've been able to put their money into crypto and actually be able to buy bread, milk, things that they need, right? Like just so we've definitely seen crypto given the ability for smaller countries to be able to actually breathe, people to actually go in and live. And this is I think this is a bad thing to first world countries, is because we depend on their suffering.
I'm not sure if that's true.
I disagree with that statement.
Go ahead. Let me put it like this. First. Let me finish the thought, and then I'll say it like this. We depend on them at a low wage because what we buy for cheap, right? Example, I go into Best Buy. I'm pretty sure you guys have Best Buys where you guys are at. And you go in, I can buy a TV for about $100, right? $150, right? And it'd be decent, right? Like it's not a big giant screen TV, but it's it's like a TV I could sit there and watch and do whatever, or a monitor for $150, $200, right? And be happy. But if in other countries now they have to pay them in crypto versus their peso or their I forget what's yuan, or in what's Thailand's I think Thailand has the peso, or I forget what Thailand's is, but their their economy in relationship to ours from a financial standpoint, we need them at low pay situation. We need them at a lower pay so that we can live the way we want to live. So that's what I mean by that. We almost need their lower incomes to be able to keep our high income status, i.e., like a first world country, I don't know, amenities. Go ahead.
Yeah, but how is the cryptocurrency different from an external dollar? Like if you bring in a dollar or external crypto, it's both a parallel currency where they don't have any power over it. So in my opinion, there is no like you can't say that the dollar is wrecking their economy by people buying stuff with the dollar there, and on the other hand, saying that we should pay them in crypto because that's not different in any way, especially because you can also pay someone in 5 Satoshi in the end, and that's literally nothing for us, and the transaction costs are way higher than the actual Satoshi is worth it. Obviously, yes, you can do lightning channels and stuff, but in the end, it's not much money reaching these people, no matter how you pay them. And they also have to live off something, so they have to spend the money again. They can't save it for later. They can't save it for better. They have to buy new seeds if they are farmers. They have to buy new stuff with it. They have to feed their children, and so on and so forth.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
that's what
not
I'm
as
saying.
simple.
We were talking about how the governments are trying to suppress, right, crypto and stuff like that, and how the U.S. is trying to basically come in with the CFTC and mess with it, right? And then I said, then we talked about them coming through and really trying to regulate that. And then I said, well, if they keep doing that, they're going to keep out the smaller people. And right now, we see a lot of major countries out there, right, going through and using crypto as a way to actually live. And I was saying,
Yeah, where?
Oh,
Which countries?
all over South America, South Africa, East and North Africa, and West Africa are literally using, because their currencies are fluctuating so bad based off the dollar. So they've actually started switching as soon as they get paid in their natural to crypto. Literally, and this is why we're seeing a huge push. In addition to that, many Asian countries, they are doing that. India, large parts of India are doing that, where the population doesn't even have the ability really to get in, right, and actually have a real bank. Yeah, they go.
Do you have articles on that? Because I'm really interested in this now.
Yeah, absolutely, I do. I've actually talked about it in the show quite a bit as well. If you go back, I'll send you stuff. Actually, speaking of that, let's go into the fact that Kazakhstan, right? Unless somebody else wants to comment on what I just said. Yeah, I definitely can give you all that stuff too as well. So I'll send that.
Yeah, no. So I would love to just add a little bit to that, and
absolutely.
It's easy to make it sound easy, but it's really complex. It's not just the dollar, right? And it's not just having a good product that sells or that people needs to buy food or pay rent, right? It's a complex system, and is crypto the solution to all of this? No, absolutely not. Could it be? Yes. Why? I believe it could be because of transparency. Because you can't hide corruption if you have a transparent blockchain where anyone can go and check where did the money end up. So that to me is what makes it interesting. No, crypto is not stable enough to be a currency that people can use in their everyday life. Sadly, this is not the case. You can't have, like you have a 2-year savings account or whatever. You have your life savings somewhere, and then BTC drops with 80%. Of course, this is not going to be able to happen for people. This is not feasible. So we need to regulate it, and it needs to become more stable. How much? I don't know, but we need to find ways to make it more stable in order for it to be feasible or be able to use in practice. The practicality of it, it has to.
It's interesting you bring that up, because when I think about like the US dollar, right, like it's gone up dramatically here in the States, right? Yeah, I don't really see much of a difference because I use it, right? So granted, we have huge inflation, what's going on, and there's a lot of internal workings that are happening, but we're seeing and also here in the States, we have a national minimum wage uptick, right? We're literally, it's gone from, in some places, minimum wage was like $7. Now, many states are being required by the government to take their minimum wage from like $7.25, $8, all the way to 15, which is almost doubling it, which is causing havoc for small businesses and causing many of them to actually having to shut their doors because they can't pay their employees. And in addition, keeping business running. Now, apart from that, okay, in the States, we overall, those people like where I live, like we have a minimum wage that's comparable to where the U.S. government wants it to go, right? And so they've been slowly moving it up to a point where it's going to be national. If let's say we didn't move, let's say we didn't cause that, and we saw the U.S. dollar do what it's doing, I still wouldn't feel much of a difference, based because I'm in that country, my exchange of it, right? So in an idea, right now we've seen major issues with Bitcoin, but if you go to El Salvador, right, with Bitcoin, they can still exchange their money because the whole entire unit itself is using. So whether it fluctuates up or down, it still holds its value internally, right? And it's not like it is I've got to sit there and go, oh shoot, are you going to take this? Now, if they were doing exchanging of, let's say, Cardano and Bitcoin, right? Then all of a sudden you get this difference. But in the actual mud pit of your country, and i.e., I feel like America is a big mud pit. Just a bunch of us got together and just now we're populated and we're all just one big group of people, right? Because our dirt skin, you guys don't. I thought that was funny. Never mind. Mud pit, dirt, skin, to dust you return. Nobody? Nope. Nobody? All right, whatever. Okay, so the exchange of value between each other, I feel like while you're in the pool of it, you don't feel much of a difference. And because I feel like crypto is an era of being able to exchange in value, dude. I mean, we've gone literally where it's a 13 year or 10 years ago, 8 years ago, it was a 900%, or it was 9,000 to 1. You need 9,000 some type of currency to basically get $1. Now it's a 20 to 1. So we've seen an increase in the value worldwide. Or the usage of it. So it's like I find that in a sense, that argument of its fluctuation is really not a sound idea. It's not, because when you're in the midst of it. Go ahead.
You have to keep in mind that at least the last numbers I heard is that less than 2% of the people in El Salvador are actually using Bitcoin.
Well, let's look at Binance, because this is the thing that we want to talk about, right? Is that Binance uses, so a lot of people use Binance and other exchanges actually as bank accounts. And so when they actually exchange value, they exchange it through Binance while it's going back and forth. Like, for example, business owners go through, instead of getting their own, using their own banks to get loans, they actually go through Binance now, because Binance doesn't have these huge rates. And in addition, if you want to take a loan, and they're going through, they're actually doing almost micro loans to a lot of these smaller countries, i.e. El Salvador. So it's not even on their scale. They can't sit there and go, oh, I'll have only 2% of our population, because majority of their population doesn't even go and report it. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard. I mean, the metrics to be able to.
Well, you know, how you can see like the apps which are used and stuff like that, and you can see where the money goes, because it's a legal thing in El Salvador. So you have also people were asked on the street. They were asked, hey, are you using it? And they did make these examinations in the country with different methods. Not only by just seeing what's visible, but also like making anonymous polls and stuff, or anonymized polls, and these show that Bitcoin or crypto is barely used in El Salvador.
Yes and no. I don't know. We'll find out. you say that, but then I don't know. Maybe you're right. Send me that thing. I'll have to look at that up because I know that it is a huge. I've read articles that actually talk about how a large portion of the people use it interchangeably between MetaMask and MetaMask, right? Or one wallet to another, where they exchange value. And so that a lot of times is untraceable base if I send it to somebody, right? Unless the government goes through and checks every node and every transaction on the blockchain, which I find it very difficult and time consuming, based off of the fact that they don't have an Interpol, speaking of another news source we're going to talk about, situation where they can actually go through and find these, exchanges going back and forth. So I just find that very interesting. But you're right. I don't think I don't think we have a good ability to be able to gauge that, right? We just don't. And so a lot of I don't know. I didn't know that. So I have to look at that up, what you just said, and research more into that. But thank you. So I can't talk to that point, it null and voids my point, which a lot of the articles that I've said. So we'll see what happens. Next one that we could talk about here real quick. So interesting. Polkadot has created I'll read the article. It's off of Decrypt. Polkadot privacy projects Manta Network eyes crypto's largest trusted setup ever. So basically, they're going to bring in about 5,000 people to come, and they've already signed up to test and try to break their whole entire blockchain. And it's basically set up like Monero, right? That is basically from point A to point Z. It hides your transaction completely. And they're creating this for the security purpose of being able to basically hide transactions. So it's a really interesting thing actually going on and being set up right now. And I think that's interesting based in security, what they're trying to do. What are your guys' thoughts on, with all this regulation coming into the crypto world, like why are crypto projects like Polkadot and other people trying to establish a way to not be able to track them? You think that's a good thing? You think that's a bad thing?
Well, I believe in the privacy of the people, and everyone should be allowed to have privacy. So you should not be forced to publicly show what you have and where you spend your money at. Obviously, the countries and the states, and governance, they don't want it. They want everything to be visible, and this is why other major cryptocurrencies, look at Monero, get actually banned from several big exchanges because they want to be compliant with regulations, and regulations of many states say that these private coins are not allowed anymore, and that they are not allowed to be on exchanges, and this is why they would ban any exchange in a country where they would be able to buy Monero or other private coins. And this is why private coins get highly regulated and banned. And I'm not sure if or how this will turn out for Polkadot or for everyone who tries to build it. I'm pro privacy, and I think that this is needed, and that there is no other way to be free in this world. Because if you can be tracked and everyone knows where you spend your money at, this is a tough world where you can't live what you would like to. Because there is freedom in this world, but there is always social boundaries set to this freedom. Because I don't want my neighbors to know where I bought my new tool, for example, because I don't want them to get the same. Or there are lots of reasons why you don't want to be publicly known, or where your spendings should be private. And in my opinion, there's not enough attention on these topics yet.
I agree with you. I do agree with that. I kind of like the fact that they really didn't get really much. I mean, here's the thing. It's called the ceremony. It's expected to last up to 2 weeks, and we'll have about 5,000 participants from as many countries as 133 countries, making it the largest and most distributed trust setup in the history of Web3, according to Manta Network. So I find that very interesting that they're going through, and they're really trying to make sure that you can't break this, And so we know what happened with Tornado Cash and their whole entire exchange and all that stuff that what came along with them, right? Like They came in, they just got smashed, right? So it's interesting to see. And I put it like this: Polkadot was one of the primary coins that was sent to not Kazakhstan, the war going on in Europe. Why am I forgetting what it's called? Between Russia and
Ukraine.
Thank you, Ukraine. Wow, I couldn't even think what it was called. Brain was farting there for a second. Forgive me. But it was one of the primary coins that was used to actually help and support Ukraine's war. So a lot of people sent a lot of Polkadot, and they even said send us Polkadot. So it's really interesting to sit there now and see that they're creating certain aspects behind this where it can't be tracked, right? And their whole entire setup is really interesting. If you guys also watch, you can check the show notes there up top. And you can see I've gone through. You can actually click on it and see what I'm talking about. But I just want to know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on it, Hingston? The man in the gym. He's the man in the gym here, working out, working on his glutes.
So my thoughts. I'm also pro. I'm pro privacy for sure. The list goes on and on for why this is important. The question is, how do we solve it?
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any good takes on it yet. I mean, blockchain is just a fancy way of saying a decentralized cloud-based database. It's like it's not that interesting, honestly. It's like it's a digital ledger. It just keeps track of what happened, and it proves itself by being a trustless system, and that's great and all. But the matter of the fact is that every currency that we ever tried to maintain crashed at some point.
Yeah, agree.
And then we have to reset the economy. And how do we do that? Usually with war. And now we are in a time of conflict, which means that we are going to be able to get out of this situation no matter what. Why? Because millions are going to die. Okay, cool. That's also a way of doing it, right? So when it comes to the political side of it, like where do we even start digging? Where do we even start handling this? Who do we hold accountable? How do we prevent us from making the same mistakes again? I'm not interested in building the same system that we already have. The current stock market isn't great. The banking system is very, like in Sweden, yeah, of course. Over here, it's pretty fair. But in a lot of places, you can't even open a proper bank account without being, you have to have positive credit, or I don't know. It's just like,
it's true.
How can this be, a good system where you exclude people from it? There has to be a better solution.
Was it Sweden? And forgive me if I'm wrong with this. It was Sweden that actually during the great financial crisis of 2008, right? That you guys went with you guys peacefully went to, I believe, your parliament and removed many of the bankers and senators and representatives of your government, and you literally jailed them. It was the people who went there.
No, it's actually Iceland. It's actually Iceland. Yeah, it's Iceland.
But I mean,
but Sweden did something else that we also usually do, and we buy the banks out when they mess up. So who pays for the bank's mistakes? It's paid with taxpayer money, and that is something that the Swedish people has had to do a couple of times. Yeah, we can't predict that shit is gonna hit the fan, but we can take less risk. You don't have to take a lot of risk if you are a big bank. You're still making a lot of money.
I agree. I'd agree with that. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Mary?
Mary's already sleeping, I guess.
Well, you know what? I'm actually multitasking here. I need to feed my kids. So I'm just listening to you guys. I agree with everything and everyone said except Hingston, I think. No, I'm just kidding.
That's funny. That is funny. I put it. I think it's good and I think it's bad. We have a couple things, right? Like the aspect of criminal involvement within crypto. It's there, right? Is it a lot? We really don't know, right? Like
Yeah, but we are never going to be able to stop criminal activity this way anyways.
Right.
The only way we stop criminal activity is to legalize it and put heavy tax, what's it called? We just tax it heavily.
Well, I mean,
this is the only way to do it. Do it like Portugal did with drugs, for example.
Right. But I'm talking about things like, human trafficking, right?
Yeah.
Sex. How do you
legalize it and heavily tax it? And then the
well, maybe not human trafficking, but
but legalize it. But so how do you make it?
So you're legalizing slavery?
No. How do you make it not profitable for the ones trying to do it right now? You make it.
Yeah, but we are talking about slavery.
Yeah, that's exactly.
No.
Human trafficking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
with trafficking, how do you catch the ones doing it? You legalize it.
Put them in jail.
You put heavy taxation on it. They try to skip paying taxes. That's how you get them. Otherwise, how do you even prove that they are trafficking people?
Here's the thing. I don't think they're stupid enough to be able. I don't think they're stupid.
Yeah. Check German history and check how they handled sex trafficking and how they legalized sex working, and how they also got them all. How they got, like so many of them by just, like people who refuse to pay their taxes.
Really? That happened in Germany?
That's a Swede.
Oh, excuse me.
Who's talking?
Right. But he said, check out Germany's history.
Yeah, but Germany did this brilliantly.
But when was this?
Yeah, in Germany, it's allowed to actually, like prostitution is allowed here.
Yeah.
My question is
and what happened was, instead of the pimps having all the power and empowering women who actually wanted to be in prostitution, they allowed them to be business owners themselves. And this way, the power went, there was a power shift. And the women was like, we don't even need you. I can get customers on my own. You're just in the way. And suddenly, everything that was, like associated with risk, getting punched in the face by your pimp for not meeting the demands or whatever, not getting your cut properly, like your part of the salary, whatever, right? All of these issues just disappeared.
Getting strangled,
getting murdered. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been proven that if we legalize it and if we tax it heavily, then this is a way to get to discourage criminal activity. It becomes too much of a hassle to be in this business, and then they have to find somewhere else to make money.
So what do we do in Sweden, Hingston? We legalize the prostitution, but you're not allowed to buy it from anyone. That's illegal. That's weird.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's certain states in America that does it, right, where they go after the job.
Isn't this a crypto podcast though?
Yeah, but what we're talking about is the ability with Polkadot and how they're setting up the ability where you won't be able to find the transaction once you step into their ecosystem, and then you start to interact. It will be completely anonymous. And so we talked about how the security of it, they want to make sure that we can be anonymous. Whereas for me, in the back of my mind, there's a balance of that, right? Where, a lot of criminals, they do use crypto, right, to actually go back and forth. I know guys who did stupid things, right, and were paid in crypto, right? So I look at that and I'm like, and I've distanced myself away from them. Like, I was like, y'all nuts. I don't want to deal with you. But you know what I'm saying? And the other thing to talk about as well is, with that same anonymity that you're able to keep yourself out of limelight, people who deal in, let's say, child abduction, right, and then sell children on open markets, that's real, and they use crypto for that, right? They use that as an exchange value so that they can then take that money of crypto and put it into traditional fiat. So it's this balance.
But they could just as well use cash for this, right?
Yes and no, because the reality is, if you're in another country, right, and it's even weirder, right? We've actually seen politicians get in trouble for this stuff, right? This stuff is prevalent. So it's what's really weird is we see this in more of the higher.
What stops a politician from buying with cash?
Yeah, there's not. That's what I'm trying to say. Is we've seen this in cash, but it's just interesting to sit there and see if we go to the CBDC system, which is where we're going to talk about in a few minutes with Kazakhstan and the test net, right, that they're actually creating on Binance. It is like we're trading one evil for another, but with one evil, at least we know this devil here, right, versus this devil we don't know. And so it's interesting to see how they're playing against each other. And again, there's no real answer to be able to gauge whether we should have full anonymity within crypto, right? Because I agree with you. You're right. I don't want somebody knowing my business, but in the backside, I also am like, I know that there's real travesties that are happening within crypto, that people are hurting children. I mean, I read an article of a guy who literally killed 2 molesters in the States here. The guy was in his, I call them cages, but he was in a cell, right? And they put him next to it. They put him into, and here in the States, this is the other thing. The child molesters and the regular convicts are not put into normal together. They actually separate them, and they keep them in different parts of the jail. So somehow, some way, this guy was put into, or these guys, I think maybe was overpopulated within the child molesting area. So they must have put these guys into this other crew, and this guy goes and he kills these 2 molesters. Like, or one he kills and the other one is severely on nuts, right? And part of the ways that they were able to get their child pornography and do all these things was through crypto, right? So it's like, how do we legalize? Okay, so we legalize and we tax it heavily, but there's still children and there's still women that are being hurt, that are being brought into this, right? So it's like, and there are some cases.
But the thing is that they wouldn't be brought into it because it's too much of a hassle to actually maintain it, and you tax it so heavily that it's not profitable anymore. So what happens is that you kill the market.
You could and you couldn't, because ultimately, right? Like, there are people out there who don't pay taxes, but you're right. But if it's on,
right? If you tax it so heavily that they are forced to stop or to not pay taxes. When they are not paying taxes, you can get them for one of the actual worst punished crimes in the world, which is, of course, trying to steal money from the state, right? And this is the beauty of it, because you cannot be profitable if the taxation is too high, right? So no one will want to enter this business.
It's interesting. It's really interesting. Especially
it works. The Germans did it. It works. I don't know what to say. The kids will not choose to be like in porn. Of course not.
But in the same sense, that is something that is pushed out there.
Hinkson,
and it's horrible.
Yeah.
I agree that it works, but I think it's not feasible for every crime out there.
Of course not. Of course not. Maybe not for every crime. Maybe not. There are very few solutions that is a solution that works for everything, right?
Because like you can destroy a market if there is a way of let's say an alternative where it's cheaper. Not like the pimps, they get outperformed by the actual girls who can self-sustain. Yeah. But someone who is selling child pornography, who is he competing against? Nobody, because there is no ethical child pornography. So
no, but if you tax it,
so you can't kill the market like that.
Yeah, no, but if you tax it with 100% or 200% or whatever of what you are making, right? If you tax it more than you actually make from it, and you're not paying up, then you can't sell the product.
There will always be someone.
A black market. Like, listen, we know about
absolutely,
the dark
absolutely.
web, right?
But then you can get them for tax evasion, and when you get people on tax evasion, you can put them away for life, and you can put them in situations
why? No, you can't, because you can get them for tax evasion if they have legal company. If they don't, you can't. You can still just work out as it does right now. Like it can be in the deep web, and they can evade the complete legislation as they do right now if they have to pay like all money. Like
but if
it's
the
not
tax
feasible
office
if there
comes,
is no competition. You
yeah, but
can
if the tax
bring
office
down
comes to you
illegal
for,
markets by creating a legal market. That's true.
yeah,
But if you don't want the market at all because the stuff
There
which
you
is
go.
done is like, let's say it's snuff films or some stuff where people
Yeah.
die, which is highly moralic, like highly ethically
wrong.
bad, and
Yeah.
then you can't create a legal market for that, or
Most
can't
people are.
create
I
a
think you
ethical
can't.
market.
Hey guys, you can never change this overnight, whatever you do or not do. You have to go to the root of the problem and start helping these people when they are kids. That's when they screw up. They don't have good opportunities as kids. That's why they turn to,
Horrible stuff.
this kind
But
of crimes and stuff.
well, and again, it's Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mary. Go ahead. What were you saying? Because I just interrupted you. You just sparked something in my head, and I just started talking. Go. No, keep going.
No. But I believe that. I mean, you can spot these kids that are gonna end up on the street. They are gonna end up as criminals, and if the state or whoever sees this and can fix this from the start, instead take care of these kids, take care of these families, and educate them, help them be educated instead, so they can provide for themselves in a good way instead of a bad way. It's not simple.
And that's
but
it's
nothing
not
is
simple. Yeah, I agree with that. It's interesting. I mean, speaking of crypto in that aspect, you can almost reward people for, instead of disciplining people for doing the wrong thing, maybe reward them in crypto for doing the right thing. Like, hey, you get
give them carrots. Yeah, that's good.
give them carrots. I mean, like legit, right? Like, in a sense, by helping them out. So it's interesting. But then, how do you know, right? Because there was I remember, I forgot how long ago. I want to say almost 10.
There will
20 years
always
ago.
be crime anyway. You cannot. We are humans. We can't trust humans. Period.
I agree. The human nature, right? Like some people believe is internally good, but is it? Like, are we? I mean,
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah. No, it definitely is. It definitely is. But there's also the misconception of good and bad. But what is inherently human is love.
okay, I agree with that. Yeah. No matter what, yeah.
And
Yeah,
we
make
are
more
a pack,
love.
and we are a pack animal, which means that if you put a couple of complete strangers in a situation, they don't know each other, but they have to hang around each other for 3 days, they will be friends. It's just human nature.
I agree. We are pack. It's there, but in the same sense, again, right? Comes also down to the nature of the individual, right? Like let's take Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players in the world, right? He when he first came to the scene, right? Like he was very standoffish. He was an introvert, and he just did his own thing. He's the one who coined the term, and I use it all the time for my trading, right? Like, boobs don't block dunks, dude. Like, and that dude is added in my analogy, right?
Now put him on an island together with 3 other strangers, and see how he starts to starve, and he doesn't have a shelter over his head or whatnot, and suddenly it's not that fun to be alone anymore. Human nature is to be a pack animal. Why? Because our chance of survival is higher. This is just something we have developed over the other years through evolution, right? So it's part of being a pack animal. And if he then, like in society, he was taught that he should be selfish, or he should not mind, like he shouldn't get distracted by others or whatever it is, then fine, absolutely. But that will also make him weaker.
And I think, but what I bring in is the idea of, okay, so there's no way that we're going to all be on an island, right? Like that's not conducive to our society.
But we
Things
already
are
are.
not.
We are super isolated right now.
No, but what I'm trying to say,
the rate
is
of depression
really
has never been higher.
Well, yeah, people killing themselves. But my biggest thing is this: is you're not on an island with no like goods. And partly, I truly believe part of the reasons why we see a lot of people kill themselves is a lot of the foods that are in the world right now are throwing off their whole entire estrogen and testosterone level so much that most people are either way over testosterone or way over estrogen. And there's not a correct balance, which throws off the chemical imbalances within the head, which causes you to go into depression and want to kill yourself. But that's on another side note, right? Like the
All right, guys, I need to leave. Have a good talk. Great. Thanks for having me, Pedro. See you next time.
You too,
See you
brother. Talk to you
later,
soon. Later.
Toby. Here's
See you
a
later.
thought,
Bye.
Pedro. If you have all the basic stuff in life, you have food, you have shelter, you have family, then you can start find other problems that you need to solve, like how long should my nails be, or what kind of hair
first world
color
problems
should I have, and what's wrong with my butt, or what do I need to operate my breast or whatever, but when it comes to like Ukraine or something that you said earlier, or other places where there is war and suddenly, or nature catastrophes and stuff, and suddenly you don't have a shelter, you don't have fresh water, you don't have food and anything, what's more important then?
Well, this is where we go into, right? Whereas I think crypto is a good source to be able to sit there, especially countries that can't sustain themselves and are having major issues in relationship to food, right? Based off of the injustice of the dollar and their national currency being able to buy goods and services, right? Like I think that's where crypto can come in and really help in a lot of areas, right? The backside behind it, though, and this is where we find certain aspects, is that the idea of first world issues versus third world issues only comes with education. That's how you really solve it, right? Is you get that farmer to become, his children to go to school and then develop a watering system that allow within the urban district to be able to bring it into the rural district, that watering system, right? That's how you bring agrarian third world country into first and second world civilization. How far is that going to be used as a carbon print? This is what the G20 is about, right? And how to actually do that in a sustainable way by bringing third world countries into a first world country stability in a stable way, right? Without basically instead of America going through its industrial revolution, the world is going through its industrial revolution now, right? And if it did the practices that America did, dude, it's end of the world, right? Like legitimately end of the world. I mean, we see what's happening with China and their disregard to, real environment. What is that? The environmental governance, EG system, EGS, right? Or is it I forget what it is. But it basically is a system that they're placing upon the government, and yet China, who's one of the biggest just distributors of carbon, is sitting there saying, "Oh, we're going to try," but it's going to be by 2050. So it's this, I don't know, it's just a bunch of hypocrisy based off America and the G20 countries placing this dominance over other smaller countries, saying that you need to follow by these rules, but we ourselves didn't, right? Like England didn't, Iceland didn't, there's just a lot of areas in which we've done to just. Anyways, I'm going into just craziness.
Yeah, sorry. What are you talking about now?
Okay, because you talked about how do we,
and when do I get my Monero?
Yes.
I need to leave
crypto.
soon, actually.
Yeah, I'll bring this up here real quick. I want to bring this other one is. So Kazakhstan to test the national digital currency on BNB chain. Binance CEO Zhao says. So I think it's really interesting that Kazakhstan is actually going through and setting up a CBDC, and they're trying to do this by the end, like in a month or two, where they're going to try to do it's completely set up to launch by the end of 2022. So I think that's really interesting that a CBDC, instead of them trying to create their own blockchain, they've actually stepped in and said, we're going to use Binance as an actual blockchain to be able to run our CBDC. And part of me is like, why is Binance doing that, right? Like, they're almost helping the enemy. But then in the same sense, the mass adoption in the world for that, of seeing like the rest of the world sits there and goes, well, look what Kazakhstan is doing, right? So I think it's really interesting what we're actually seeing as we move forward, especially seeing maybe a hand-in-hand shake between, shaking between what we're seeing with the CBDCs and just, kind of crypto in general, right? So what are your guys' thoughts on that? You guys there? Inkster?
I don't know. Because I didn't really pay attention. I was multitasking. Sorry.
It's all right. You have a baby. It's all good. I understand.
Do you know, is anyone listening to this? Where can I see the listeners? Hi, everyone.
We got one person listening, so there you go. Not a lot of people. I mean,
Ooh,
it's
one
one person.
listener.
Yeah, so that's
Who
cool.
is that? Your mom?
No, it's actually somebody a part of my group. I have I'm a dev over at Moonrock Coin, and so the DAO there is when somebody on the actual website is listening. So it's
All
cool.
right, but seriously, I really have to go. I've been here an hour now, but
All right.
it was fun to be on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you. Do you have a project or anything that you're doing or that you're a part of, anything that you want to showcase and get it out there? Because I do have quite a few people who do watch the recordings. So.
I will find some and tell you later to the next show, maybe.
All right,
How
we'll talk
often
to
do
you
you
soon.
have these shows?
I do it every day, almost every day. So.
Every day. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I go over the
Alright.
markets every day and the movements of them, and I've called quite a few turns in the market live, saying people.
So okay, tell me before I go because where do you see Bitcoin go the next few weeks?
Oh, real simple. So in the next couple weeks, as we're looking, we really have a couple options. One, we have this 20-period moving average coming in between here. We have some bunch of sellers sitting.
Just very simple, please. Not all the lines and everything.
Well, that's where I'm at. It's like you're asking me how to get to a place. I'm like,
no, what you think, what you believe.
I think we're going down. I think we're coming down to 19841 area here. I think we're going to hit this resistant level here, and we're going to see a sell-off until we get to here.
Do you think it's going down below 10?
Oh, absolutely, down the road, yeah. But the market never goes straight down, right? It goes up and down, but with lower highs and lower lows.
Okay. So when will it hit 10 then, according to your prediction lines?
I think we got a year.
A year? So when is the next bull run?
I
100K.
I would think probably a year to 2 years from now.
Okay.
The biggest thing is until we have real regulation coming in and it sets everything up, we aren't going to see this thing push above 2200, which is right here.
So can you regulate Bitcoin?
I don't think so. I think it is truly it's a protocol that has no real consensus, right? I mean, it has consensus, but it's truly DeFi. Whereas all the other ones out there, they're ran by a central person or a central entity, right? So how do you regulate something that doesn't have it?
Out there that are trying to
build on
the same
Bitcoin?
As Bitcoin and just start something and then leave it?
Yeah, there are a few people out there, but here's the thing, though: it's getting the adoption of those organizations. I mean, Bitcoin barely has. I mean, it's known, but not a lot of people use it or buy it, right? Imagine those organizations trying to get ahead. So I think in 10 to 15 years, yeah, I think those protocols will definitely be able to do it once the adoption and everybody's paying attention to crypto news and like the way they pay attention to traditional markets. But ultimately, it's not going to happen overnight, right? Like we really are in the beginning. I think pre-beginning right now, right? It's almost been just leading up, like the prologue, before we get into crypto as a large and an adoption. So Bitcoin is like Yahoo, I feel like.
Yeah, I think there is still so many people out there who has no clue about crypto, and also who has a clue and are totally against it, and only see, like you talked before, about weapons and drugs and stuff. that's what they use that for, people think, and they do. But also real
But there's also a
money
lot of
or
good
fiat,
things.
there's so much more fiat use in those areas as
Yeah.
well. So
Agree.
I mean,
Agree.
you can never stop that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty positive that there are, tech people who did nefarious things, and in the early tens, right, when Bitcoin first came out, right, and they got paid a lot of money in Bitcoin, right, to do whatever they were going to do by maybe attacking somebody, or like Anon, right, like Anonymous, right. They were underground network of people who basically did jobs for black market, whether they were black hats or white hats or red hats, right? It depends on what they did for money, but they were anonymous.
But you know what? As long as there are like huge wallets of Bitcoin, that we don't know who owns them or who is this, it's the same as now. There are a few people who owns a lot of the money that are existing now, or the market, or
like
the
families.
companies and everything, and the little people, we own just a tiny bit, and we're trying to get by. We have to go to work every day. We can't buy Lambos and drive around and just have fun and whatever they do. I don't know. But if Bitcoin, if we're going to move from fiat to only crypto or Bitcoin, there's still going to be the same. There's lots of guys, and maybe there are even criminals then, because they started with Bitcoin long time ago when Bitcoin was cheap, so they have loads of Bitcoin. So, I mean, do we want that? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. So you talked about the families and how they're setting up, right? So in England, right, the Crown Estate, right, they own the equivalent of North and South America portions of land. That's literally how much land they have all over the world. It's literally how much land they have. And then they bring income off of that, right? It's the equivalent of North and South America put together. Where they have it, you can go through, you can check it out and see, and they do show you. Here's a website here, right?
But is it okay that just a few people have almost everything and the rest is like starving and can't have fresh water and stuff? Is that how it's supposed to be? I don't know, maybe, but that's how it is. Is that okay?
I mean, I'm
Can
a
you live
Christian,
with
so
that?
yeah, I'm a Christian, so I believe, like, at least my understanding of the full narrative of the Bible, right, was literally that Adam and Eve were sons of God, and then from there, we were all birthed from that. I believe that God wanted the human race to live in a way where everybody lived equally and loved each other, and they shared with those who did not have much, and they helped, and it was a mutual relationship. I believe that everybody should have their own fruit tree in their garden, meaning they should be able to provide for themselves without the need for somebody else's intervention, right? So, and we don't see that in the world. We don't see that in third world countries. We don't see that in even second world countries, right? That are dealing with real poverty, real issues in relationship to a disparity between wealth, right? Where a group, 2%, 1% owns, 80, 90%.
Well, we're probably too many people to have that ever happen. Everyone's gonna have their own fruit trees and stuff. There's not enough land to provide for that at the moment.
Well, I mean, it all depends on how we set things
Or
up.
maybe there is. I don't know, but
there is,
I
but
think there might not be. I mean, on those places where you can grow a fruit tree or have that kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe there are calculations for that. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's possible, right? But in the same sense, again, you have my tribe versus your tribe, right? My family versus your family, right? Or my needs versus your needs. And this is where the human psyche kicks in. And I think crypto is actually a good analysis of how we do see how things are working right now from a fundamental level. Whereas people all over the world trying to accrue and get Bitcoin. And now we're seeing institutions step in and really want to get into this market because they've they've either chilled on it. I do believe that we see there's an area in the Bitcoin chart that I look at, and it's around the $500 mark. It's actually right here. Where's it at? I have it marked here. These are two areas here where I believe like this is the $300, $400 mark area where we saw institutions really start to get involved. I don't know if who institution-wise, but you can see here that, see this big, huge amount. Now, if I spread this out, right, we see this overall. Look, here's the volume that we've seen it up here. Look at this volume here. People bought massive right here at that $300-$400 mark after the 2014 sell-off bear market, right? This was the longest bear market that they had, right? And so in between this area, it went from, what was it, like $1,200 all the way down to $100 at its low, right? Or 80, it was like $80. And then we went sideways here for a while. But at this level, somebody came in and bought a lot. And then same one right here. And see that you still had another major buyer sitting right here that came in. So these levels here, whoever is in at those levels, I think it's multiple wallets. I think it's institutions, because that amount of buying, and then we see it here, right, rally. We don't really see a lot of volume stepping in. So this is why, like, some people believe that Bitcoin will probably come back down to that $500 mark. I don't think it will. I think we'll see it maybe come down. And this is where Midnight talks about, right, where he thinks it might not come down. He thinks it's going to come down to the 4,000 mark. I personally think it's going to come down to this area here, the 13.
So what happens when there is no longer an incentive to mine Bitcoin?
That is a great question. I don't know, right?
Does the chain die?
Yeah. You asked a great question. I don't know. Like, that's something that I can sit
there.
And
when is the last, with our current mining capacity, when is the last Bitcoin going to be mined?
I think somebody told me, I think it was like 2050. I believe that's when it is. We can just do a quick little Google search on it, right? But I think it's 2050
And is that going to bring down all of crypto or only BTC? Is that when layer 2 is going to take over, or Gen 2, I should say? Sorry, I should say Gen 2.
Yeah, it's
actually.
Yeah,
is that when the rise of Gen 2 is happening?
That's in the next 10 years, we're going to see protocols come out, right? Like, again, we're still at the very beginning. I think the real part of crypto, right, the second version of crypto will be at that. And that'll be in 2030 or 2050. And that's 30 years from now, right? Or 28 years from now. So it's going to be really interesting to sit there and engage what's actually going on within crypto at those moments. I will be in my 70s and 80s, hopefully still doing the show and talking with people and going over and bringing on guests. So that's going to be real interesting. Really, really interesting. I don't know.
So here's another thought. Okay,
go ahead.
I mean, why are people interested in crypto at all? Why do we want? I mean, right now it's like the gamble side. You can maybe make a Lambo overnight. That's what people think and believe and hope for, And if you provide people with everything they need all around the world, I mean, take from the rich and give to the poor, like Robin Hood. Like, let's do a Robin Hood thingy,
Well, that's what a lot of these scammers believe that they're doing, right? Is that a lot of them are in third world countries who have access to computers.
So you think they give back to the poor after they
are the poor. They're giving it back to themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's I don't know.
Well, there's so many questions out there. I mean, what you can do is you can be true to yourself. You can find your own morals, and you can live the life that you want to live and be an inspirational for other people around you. And then hopefully it can spread like rings on water, you know, to other people. And if you can inspire some people to do better and do good, I think you have achieved a lot in life, to be honest.
To a certain extent. I mean, because how are you inspiring? Somebody inspired Hitler. Somebody's inspired Karl Marx. Right? Like, how are we inspiring the next
Yeah,
world?
sorry, you can't blame me for that. I wasn't born.
It's interesting to sit there and see that. I don't know. I'm here for the ride. I know that most likely crypto will be the future. I know that the largest banks in the world would not be going into the crypto world and wanting to be able to offer it to their clients if it wasn't a real thing. Right? You have real money going into it. We're talking trillions of dollars going into the backside of crypto versus the front side of crypto. Right? Meaning people would rather invest into the companies that are setting and establishing the stuff versus actually buying the coin. This is what Warren Buffett does, right? Warren Buffett doesn't, very rarely does he go out and buy a stock unless the market is completely bleeding. I mean, when the stock market goes down to the 1500s and 1600s, right? This is where we're going to see Warren Buffett start to come in and buy. Right, like I think around these levels here, maybe the 30, that 20, like here we go right here, like the 29 area, he might start to step in and buy. But I think he'll really be looking to buy in at these lower levels if the market goes bloody. The fact is that Warren Buffett is now using Matic as a test net to actually launch his own coin and ecosystem. Layer 1 is crazy for me to even think about. Versus 5 months ago, you were sitting there lambasting crypto and saying it's a Ponzi scheme, right? So it talked about a head fake, right? So I think it's real interesting to see what it's going to look like. I think it's going to give the rich a lot. It's going to give the influencer, the rich, and the politician to be able to create insane amount of money. But I also think it's going to be able to give the layman, right, like me or you, who at least are in the ability to be able to become wealthy, to be able to become a local family that's wealthy that can help people, right? Like those who get into it in the beginning and understand what's actually going on. I once heard a statistic, somebody saying, if you have $5,000 in crypto right now, right, at these levels, in 30 years, doesn't matter where you're at, and if that crypto still sticks around, you should have at least $4 to $5 million worth. That's going to be worth at least, because of the adoption and just by the movement of the market, just doing this right here.
But this is just speculation, you can never know. I mean, who knows if crypto is still here in 3 years? We don't really know that.
I'm pretty positive.
We believe that.
Well,
but
no.
We don't know.
Because, and there's why I say no with this aspect, and please contradict me, but why would Warren Buffett invest a ton of money? Why would Facebook invest billions of dollars? Why? And granted, I see what's going on. Honestly, I'm looking to buy Meta right now.
They are old and history is repeating itself. That's a fact so far.
Oh my
but will it be in the future? We don't know.
I the thing is, it's a more efficient product, and there's more money, more talent going into crypto and blockchain. Everybody's moving. All the talent is moving into crypto and blockchain, like quantum physics. And
when you say crypto is the future, sure, it is the future in some aspects, possibly.
But as we know what you mean,
the future. I mean, there's so much more to life than money or crypto, or
Well, absolutely. I'm not disagreeing with it. But I'm saying it from a longevity standpoint, right? As we're looking at it, I'm not. Listen, have like, why do you have money? So that you can have a family, right? Why do you why do you wake up every day? Because you got babies who you absolutely love, right? And why does your husband go and work? Because he loves those babies, and he's trying to earn his own peso right, his own ducat, so that he can give his children a better life. Right? The point of wealth is to make sure that your posterity has more of a chance to flourish. Like that's the point of like, that's this whole entire thing is about flourishment. Rest and flourishment is what we want. Right? We want to be able to rest when we want to rest and not be told what to do. And two, we want our children and family to flourish. We want our grandchildren to flourish and our great grandchildren. Every person, at least a lot of my group of friends, a lot of them, is that they want to be the one who sets their family up for the future. And they can say, my great great uncle, my great 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 grandfather, right? I knew a kid. I was Ubering a few years ago. Kid gets into my car, and he's wasted. I said, "Hey man, listen, dude, I got a bag back there. If you're gonna puke, please just pull it out. I've got a few of them there." And so I reached back there. He was and I pulled it out. And so he kind of sat back up. And so I said, tell me, how was your night? He goes in. He was like, oh, it was good. And so I saw the address that we were supposed to be going to, and I know that area is a very, very, very wealthy area. And so I was like, oh, going to your parents' house? He goes, no, it's my house. And I go, that's cool, dude. And then so I start talking, and he goes, I know you're thinking, how is that my house? And I go, yeah, I am. And because where I live, it's basically, they call it the land of hedge funds, right? And so I said, yeah, man, I'd love to hear your story if you don't mind me asking. The guy's in maybe 25, 24, right? Maybe just out of college. And so I just asked him, I said, yeah, man, how what do you just strike you rich? Like what? He goes, no, my great-great-grandfather got a group of people to invest after the stock market fell in the 2000, or not 2000, but in 1930. The stock market crashed. And I said, really? He goes, yep. And then we managed that money, and that money obviously did what we've seen, what it's done since the 1930s. And I said, wow. And I go, can I ask you something? He goes, what? I go, are you happy? He goes, well, I think my grandpa wanted me, or his great-great-grandpa wanted him to be happy. But he goes, but not really. My family's complete a mess. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, last time I saw my mom was about 3 years ago. And I go, oh. And he goes, it was for holidays, and it was toxic. It's toxic. He goes, and what made me wake up to it was I had an ex-girlfriend that I fell in love with who didn't want to marry me because of my family. And I go, wow. He goes, the love of my life just didn't want to be part of my family because she wanted a good family, not money. So jumping back to my original statement, which is every person wants to be that guy who provides for the family, where your great-great-grandchildren say, that's the guy who hooked us up. So you ask me, what's the point of crypto? Crypto allows the common man, I believe, to be able to do that, be able to invest into something. Like the idea of people who invested. I knew a guy who put in $5,000 into Ethereum when it was at 25 cents, right? And the guy is sitting, now he makes 5% off of that every year. So it's an insane amount of money that he has, right? But he saw it for what it was, and he just let it run and kept letting it run, right? And he kept reinvesting his money into it, especially when it was at its peaks, right, where he was buying. So it's really interesting to sit there and gauge where we're going to be, what we want to do. Anyways, hopefully I haven't bored you, because I feel like I'm just talking. I don't mean to bore you in a sense, Mary.
Well, it has been interesting, and I have to go. So we have been here 1 hour and 20 minutes now. So
Yeah. All right. Talk to you soon, sweetie. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
See
us.
you guys.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Guys. Later. Bye. All right, that was an interesting conversation. I want to bring up one last little thing here as well. So it's very interesting. So I was going through Chain Analysts, and they were talking about, it was an article out in July, and I'm interested to see where we're at currently right now at the end of October here, but that we've actually seen a drop in major scam tokens, 1, 2, hacks. But October in itself has been the highest month in relationship to hacks happening, like per capita. Like there's just a ton of hacks that have happened, and they're not really, because it's becoming common now. It's really interesting to sit there and see that. But I would actually love to see chain analysts do a new article based off of that. I think it would be really cool to be able to sit there and see based off of cumulative cryptocurrency hacks and just scams in general. So in general, that'd be dope. So that's in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and go to the charts, guys, here real quick. Oh, one last little one too as well for the news-wise. Interpol is planning a dedicated crypto crimes unit in Singapore, which is really interesting. And they talk about how they're going to bring in about, I think it was, where was it? The announcement was made ahead of Interpol's 90th General Assembly in New Delhi, India. The event will be held from October 18th till October 21st. Moreover, the high-ranking policies, police officials from 195 member states of Interpol will be in attendance. So obviously this is a little old, but in a nutshell, they're basically just saying that they're going to start putting a whole entire unit together to go after a lot of people who are literally doing scam tokens, i.e. hacks, taking people's wallets. So there's going to be some major, there are major changes within the U.S. government staff, or not the U.S. governments, but the world's governments, and especially within Europe, to actually capture and go after these people within the markets. So it's really interesting to see that happening within crypto. Also, what I find interesting, surprise, negative 2.5%. They estimate it was 1 point. Wow, no wonder here. Woo! And you know, this kind of reminds me of what's actually going on in the country here. This is nuts. Real interesting here. Earnings February, April, July. Actual estimate. It's real interesting as we see as we move forward. It's just crazy though. Like, even though they are, you know, they're falling apart here for Facebook, they're still bringing in an insane amount of money. I would love to see what their earnings per share is, right? Like, that's, you know, what is their liabilities versus their liabilities versus the income. Like, this is their net income. Like, profit margin, 15%. So that blows me away that they have $4 billion as net income. That's insane, right? Like, when I think about that, you know, in comparison to, you know, other companies, right? Revenue, net profit, 31%. And it's not like this money went away, right? Like, they've just been investing into their metaverse that they've been actually establishing. So it's just really interesting to see as this moves forward. I don't know. I don't stop using Facebook, and I do use some of their ads, you know, and it does generate me money based off of Facebook ads. So it's really interesting to see what's actually going on with them. You know, let's go into the charts here real quick. Going to Apple here for a moment. There we are. Got a bunch of tabs on here, so real interesting. Come on. Okay, so let's go ahead and go in here into Bitcoin once it pulls up, and then we will check out some other cool, interesting stuff here. I actually want to point out Russia's ETF here. Also, this is the other thing I wanted to bring up here. We're seeing a major sell-off from Russia. It's been really interesting because they are a company, or they are a nation. Even though things are falling apart on what's actually going on, like in 20, 30 years, I don't see them being like bad. You know what I'm saying? I like this. Granted, this is horrible with what's going on with Ukraine and everything of that nature. But the reality is this, though, is that they are at a discount. Like, I just look at this like this is such a, to me, this is a discount, right? Compared to, like, it's like the S&P 500 dropping from you know, like it's basically jumping from like 4,000 all the way to like, what would that be? 10%, like 400 or 300. Like, I mean, like legit. So yes, it's a bad situation, right? But a lot of those companies out there aren't necessarily a bad thing. Like, they're not a, you know, a lot of those companies in Russia aren't bad. So it's like I sit there and I go, "Man, this is a discount." Also, the other one I want to point out, as well as um, the Russian, not the Russian, the Chinese market here as well. Like, this is the ETF for them, and you can see here at their peak, they're at $85. Now they're sitting at about 20, and the other day it dropped all the way down to 17 bucks, 16 bucks. So again, like, I'm sitting there seeing these things just going like, huh. It's just it's kind of blowing me away to sit there and see these, you know, from their peak to the row here. We're seeing a different, you know, it's like I just see buying opportunities, right? Of like, you know, the ability to be able to see some real movement in the market, and some capital appreciation. Also, India is another one I find really interesting, right? So India's high was at its 50 here, but look how well they're holding up. I mean, in comparison to China, in comparison to Russia, this is impressive, right? So I want to throw that out there as well, because I was looking at this last night as the charts. Um, I like looking at just everything in relationship to as we're seeing it. So I don't know. I think it's very interesting, and I find myself wanting to purchase basically these assets at a really low price. And the other part I want to bring this up as well. So during COVID, right, we saw the Indian society index here drop all the way down to 20 bucks, and it's still double of its low, right? Whereas other stuff that we're looking at, and the sell-off here was from 50 to 41, which is basically $10 over it. So it's almost 20% of from its peak, right? Whereas the US, I think, is at like 25%, which is really interesting as we're seeing what's going on in the market. So it's a really unique situation that we're seeing with a lot of these major countries around the world. I don't know. Something paying attention to as you guys look within your own portfolios and what you guys want to do. Also, the correlation between gold and Bitcoin, right? It's another thing that I found really interesting again this week. I did talk about that, how they were very correlated in the same sense. But as of right now, with us seeing gold starting to sell off pretty hard below here, right? These lows here, right? Whereas when we look at Bitcoin, it's been a very interesting correlation, right? As we're looking at this. Look, this is just, it's kind of just blowing me away, right? Like, we're starting to see a harder rally up. So it's just going to be interesting to see if they still remain that value as gold maybe keeps dropping, or will gold start to be directed by Bitcoin, right? As we start to move, these are things that I'm just always looking at and gauging what's actually going on as a chart analysis as I look at things, right? We did hit again that 50 period moving average. We did buy it. We did get above it. Is it going to hold? I don't know. We did hit our demand zone also in these levels here. These were weak demand zones that we looked at on the higher time frames. But they are showing some strength, but we did not see a higher low, or excuse me, a higher high here, but we saw a higher low here. So comparative to where we're seeing here as well, can even get above the equilibrium of the sell-off here. So it's something to be mindful of. Excuse me. Here we go. So let's check out Bitcoin here. Bitcoin, like we see right now, is currently rising up. Like I told our friend Mary, I do see us, if we do rally, I can see us coming back up to that 23 area with that 50 period moving average, but I don't think it will fully stop here. Or I think it will fully stop and we'll see another sell-off at least come down to these levels here. Or we stay where we're at, and then tomorrow we see that moving average come back up, and it's basically under the influence of the 8 currently right now. So that's the other thing we should be able to be paying attention to there. Very interesting. Since 2019, 68 cryptocurrencies exchanges have been shut down globally. I found this on Unfolded, the channel. If you go on Telegram, you can actually just subscribe to them. They're good, just a good news source for crypto. They bring out some pretty good stuff there. So I just look at this as a standpoint. I do see us doing some type of sell-off. I just don't see us holding on to this, this level here. But we'll see what happens. If it does blow through this area, the next area, guys, is right up here at that 2243 or 22436 area. It's going to be really interesting. Part of me almost wonders if we're going to see some major legislation kick in around these levels, or is this a bear trap to draw in a bunch of buyers so that they can go through and just short off of them, right? So it's really interesting to see. We'll find out. As we move forward here, Ethereum is looking pretty strong at these levels. We're seeing here that the sell-off yesterday was not as bad as Bitcoin, and we are seeing it start to really pull in a buyer wick right here where we sold off, and then we came back defending its area here. So we'll see if it comes back up into that 200 period moving average, which is the 1712 area. From a downward mark, be looking for it to maybe sell off to the 1426 area if it decides it wants to turn around here. When it comes to BNB, I was actually playing BNB quite a bit this morning, and it was actually kind of fun. It was actually real fun. So we did push right through these areas here, guys, which is pretty epic. It's showing a lot of strength here. So like I said, we are up at this level here. So be ready for some type of sell-off of these levels here. I do see us coming through and, just doing what it does. It's strong. It's strong like bull. So I do see them fighting through this area here and then seeing a sell-off coming back down and putting in a lower high, or excuse me, a higher low, and then putting in a higher high here. So we're going to see what happens here at these levels. We've tried to touch these levels a couple times, and you can see that it's been rejected. But we've been seeing here, just more of a sideways pattern now between the 3100, or excuse me, 301 area down into that 250. So a nice little fun area to play off of. Again, I do see us coming up into these levels here, and then seeing a sell-off down at least to the 8-period moving average as what we're seeing right now. So we'll see what happens over the weekend. XRP is looking fun. They didn't see massive buys yesterday when everything was or not massive buys today, even though we did see Dogecoin some massive buys, but then also now a sell-off as well. So it's really interesting to see here what we're looking at. Bitcoin in relationship to XRP, you can see it's kind of similar here, except that we did have a bigger sell-off from the XRP. These levels here, as we're looking at, are very what's the word I want to use? They're not, they could step in at any time. But the fact is that we haven't really been seeing the 200 period moving average really hold down. Every time we go up, right, it gets sells off, but it's almost becoming weaker, that 200 period moving average. So I do see it, as you can see here, every time we come down and hit that 8 period moving average on the weekly, it is getting stronger, right? So it's really interesting to see what we're seeing with XRP. Potentially, I do see this coming down to here, but most likely we're going to find support off that 8 period moving average on the daily and see it continue maybe up into these higher levels. So it's really interesting to see what we're going on. Or come back down next week into the 8 period moving average on that weekly and see a consolidation period from here in between this area, which would be a ping pong. Solana, again, they are showing less strength, but the biggest thing is this, is that they're still in the mix. They're still fighting. So that's it. They did come back, retest their previous supply area, or the previous demand, which has now become supply. So we'll see what happens here. They are fighting with that 8 period moving average, as we see right now, trying to get above it. If it does get above it, be ready for a rally all the way up to about the 34.95 area. We potentially could see this rally at least up to the 33.55 area, but more likely seeing it come up to that 35 area here. Let's try checking out Dot. Dot was in the news today, talking about their some of the attack that they have coming out. They have a nice little strong rally here. It's actually interesting that I've been bearish on them, right? And what they're coming out with is a really bullish thing. I would have thought they would have had more buyers stepping in to push this up to another level. So really interesting to see. We want to remove this demand area here. And here we go. Let me move this here real quick. All right, guys. So this is that weekly area here. We are finding resistance at this level here as well. Like I said, as well as we have the resistance level here where we're seeing a sell-off on Dot here. So how far will it go? Let's check it out. If this does see a sell-off, we could see it come back down to that 612 area from the 649. Nice little area. So it's actually really cool. Here real quick, ADA for AVAX. You can see here that we definitely have some support coming off of that 8 period moving average and moving up. Now, this previous demand, which has now become resistance, you can see here that it's really not holding anymore. So I'm going to remove this as well for the week. So you can see here, as we're bouncing off of this area, this is a junctional point here where we're starting to see support really come in on ADA here for Cardano. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they have the ability to push through that 50 period moving average, or will we see consolidation period? That is really what I think is going to happen, is more of the consolidation period before we do see another sell-off here, but we shall find out. Let's check out Dogecoin here real quick. Dogecoin is showing some major strength here, guys. It is no joke. It went from nothing to something. So like I said, there was a real battle going on between here. Like buyers and sellers really putting in a battle, and people were putting up they literally blew right through that 200 period moving average, guys, especially on the weekly and the monthly chart. There, I mean, the weekly and daily chart there. So we've come up and hit the monthly 8 period moving average. Of course, at the end of the month here is where they sit. So it's really interesting to see as we're moving. Is it going to see another sell-off I don't know, but I have to admit there's a major volume stepping in. But as we look at the volume for this month, it's the same as last month, right? So it's an interesting thought here as we're moving, right? The market came up, hit this 8-period moving average, and now on that monthly chart, we'll see if it pushes through. I don't think we're going to quickly push through it, simply because we might push through it, hit the supply zone, and then see a sell off below it. Again, if the market's moving up, what do? You buy. So if we're looking to play this overall in general, definitely keep going long is if you're still playing this, because this area here is that monthly moving average. Is that monthly? I want to make sure. Yeah, it's the monthly moving average here that we were just looking at. So sometimes when you go to smaller time frames, you see a switch of these here. So I just want to make sure that that it's the current one. Biggest thing that I'm looking for is seller wicks. We don't really see a lot of seller wicks, right? I mean, some here, but then we also see buyer wicks stepping in as well. So we'll see what happens as it continues. But again, if the market's moving up, be ready for a retrace and back down into some demand zones to play off the area here. So that's it in a nutshell. We'll check out Matic here again. Warren Buffett, little side project here. It's really interesting that he's looking to do and play off of Matic. And they're finding again support on that 8-period moving average as they continue up. So it's real interesting to see as we continue, as we move forward. Boom, there we go. Shiba is showing crazy strength as well as they continue to move up. Again, this is what's blowing me away, right? We saw nothing coming in on these guys, no volume, and then all of a sudden, within what was it, 1, 2, 3, 2 days, like 1, 2, 3 days, man, this thing is exploding again to a higher level. So real interesting as we see the markets move. My biggest thing is look, so now that we're starting to see it cross over that 8-period moving average, we'll see it rally up, hit some supply zones, and then see it sell off. I want to highlight the fact that we're also hitting that 100 and 89 moving average here, which typically acts as some form of resistance here. As you guys can see here, that we had a huge sell-off yesterday. Now, these were sellers stepping in. So if we go into the smaller time frames, are we seeing buyers or sellers, or are we seeing a real battle? We'll see if they have the ability to continue. If we do continue up, right, this is where we're going to be seeing the market come to, is that 1296 to the 1270 or the 1250 area. This is where we'll see some real battling again, stepping in, because that 200-period moving average is not just going to roll over on the daily. So we'll find out what happens. But good luck with that, guys. That's it in a nutshell for Friday. I want to talk about some major news and stuff like that. So if any of you guys liked it, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I have been just trying to figure out more or less how I want it to look like. And so my biggest thing is this: if you guys have liked it and you guys enjoyed the show, let me know. If you want to see different aspects behind it, let me know as well. All right, guys, you guys, many blessings, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye. Here we go.